It's cool you watch other stuff, but Project 2025 is a red herring. It's not real as far as being used in Trump's presidency. That's not true, though. Like, JD Vance is like the poster boy of Project 2025. He wrote the foreword of the Heritage Foundation president's book about Project 2025. Like, JD Vance is a, essentially there to ensure that Project 2025 happens. And on top of that, like, Donald Trump backed away from it because it's horrifically unpopular, but in the past he's made no secret of being aligned with Project 2025. He's talked about it while speaking at Heritage Foundation events. He's a big fan of it, actually. So, like, it's not a red herring. It's literally, like, do you know what the Heritage Foundation is? The Heritage Foundation is a massive think tank. It's the largest think tank in Washington, D.C., I believe, last I checked. And it is backed by Republican billionaires. And for Project 2025, what those Republican billionaires did is that they directed all of their other Washington, D.C. conservative think tanks to come together and work together on Project 2025. Basically, if you watch through the training videos, and I've covered almost every single one of them at this point, if you watch through the training videos, every single person that introduces one of these training videos is someone from Donald Trump's previous administration. And not only that, there have been undercover exposés of the president of the Heritage Foundation talking about how, well, Donald Trump has distanced himself from Project 2025, but I'm not too worried about that because he's going to put it into practice anyway. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, publicly, he disavows it because it became horribly unpopular. But in private, he is all on board with it. Absolutely. And the people in charge of all of this know that he's on board with it. Like, Donald Trump is an unrepentant liar. He has been his entire life. Why on earth would he be telling the truth about that, about this? That when he has an obvious incentive to lie. That's what the establishment wants, not Trump wants. Donald Trump is the head of the Republican Party. He is the establishment for the conservative movement. Like, you don't get to have it both ways. He's been the head of the Republican Party for 8 years. Like, you don't get to have someone in a position of, like, supreme leadership for almost a decade and then say, well, he's actually on the outside of politics. No, he's not. He's literally one of the most powerful political figures in the country. Like, you have no evidence for this. You're just trying to take Trump at his word. And I think that speaks to, like, some impulse in you to, like, fundamentally want to trust people, and I think that's good. I think that's a good impulse to have, but in this case, it's towards a man who is not worthy of your trust. He's anti-establishment, that's why we like him. He's not anti-establishment, he's just anti his political enemies. And his political enemies are the Democratic Party. He's been going on shows recently saying that he wants to use the military to kill or remove his political enemies, i.e. Democrats. Like, you can't say, oh, well, he's just anti-establishment. No, like, he's a little bit more than that. He's just anti-Democrat. You just like that he's anti-Democrat. And that's fine. Like, I understand that. But let's not pretend that he doesn't have a entire plan in his back pocket to gut the administrative state. It's something he talks about. Like, do you think that when Republicans talk about gutting the administrative state or, like, purging the deep state, do you think they're lying? Do you think Trump is lying about that? Genuine question. Do you think Donald Trump is lying when he says he's going to gut the administrative regulatory state? or the deep state. Do you think he's lying about that? Because I don't think he's lying about that part. I think that they're very inconvenient to him, those regulations. And so the entire purpose of Project 2025 is not just like a slate of like wish listed things from like establishment Republicans or whatever you want to call them, you know, billionaires like Bill Ackman, okay? It's also recruiting thousands upon thousands of MAGA supporters in order to be political appointees in the bureaucracy of the US government. And once those people are appointed, they're going to systematically fire or deregulate vast swaths of industry. Do you remember how there's been like a bunch of deli meat recalls recently, particularly around pork products? Does anyone remember that? That's actually a symptom of what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump deregulated the pork industry and allowed them to inspect their own facilities. So instead of like someone else coming in and inspecting like pork plants, they got to inspect themselves. And you know what happened? Know what happens when factories get to inspect themselves for cleanliness? They just give themselves passing grades and then move on. They don't actually clean up anything. They don't actually hit those standards, which is what then leads to gigantic listeria outbreaks that kill people. People have died directly because Donald Trump deregulated the pork industry. And you can't say, well, Donald Trump would, he's gonna deregulate the American government, and like that's good, but then be like, well, actually, is it also good that like people died from unregulated meat? I don't know. I think that's bad. I think that if you buy meat at the grocery store, you have a reasonable expectation of being safe to cook it and eat it. It's disturbing. I didn't know that about boar's head in general. Yep. It's been a whole thing. In my city, every restaurant has to post their health department inspector grade on the front door. That way customers know if they're eating somewhere that takes food safety seriously. Yep. So, I don't know. I believe that when Donald Trump says he has a plan to gut the administrative state and roll back regulations, I believe him, and that plan is Project 2025. He just doesn't name it in his speeches, but he's aware of it, he supports it, and he's going to use it. Should have good regulations on food, but that's what RFK is for. RFK's literally like a nut job. You know that, right? Like, he beheaded a whale in front of his children and then strapped it on the top of his car. Like, you think this, as like the bloody juices and blubber of the whale rained down into his family car that had his children inside, you think this guy cares about like food safety? Or like not being grotesque? This guy who believes that Jews made COVID-19 and is on camera saying so? You think that he's going to have good healthcare regulations? The guy who bragged about having his brain eaten by a worm? Like, are you kidding me? Dude's not healthy. Like, good golly. You can't say like, oh, well, RFK Jr. will put in good regulations. They have no intention of putting in good regulations. The entire point of deregulation is to repeal the good regulations. The good regulations that keep your groundwater from being poisoned by like oil drilling or fracking. Those are going to go away because they don't care about your local water supply if it means that their rich millionaire or billionaire friends can make a quick buck. Also, RFK Jr. is like on the record for having like raped multiple women, and no one seems to care about that. He literally sent an apology to one of the women that he raped. Like 10 years, like it's crazy to me, dog. Like, no, like, it's weird to me that you put up RFK as like someone who's like a voice of reason in the Trump insanity, and it's like he's actually insane. You know that, right? Also, Autumn Leaves. Hello, the Sam Cedar Army is here. Hell yeah, folks. We love the Sam Cedar Army, don't we, folks? Wait, he fucking what? Yeah, he admitted to raping multiple women. It's just that for whatever reason, when rich people rape women, like Republicans seem to love that. I don't understand it. I don't get it, but that seems to be like the back and forth here. The Cedaristas, hell yeah. Autumn Leaves, how you doing? And his response to that in an interview was essentially, well, no, nobody's snurfict. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when he was asked about it, he basically was just like, what are you gonna do? Youthful, sowing of oats. And it's like, you raped one of your house cleaners. Or no, not the house cleaner. The nanny of his children. Like, nah. RFK is going to be great for what he's focused on. Hey, question. Would you want a teacher in a school who's just a really, really phenomenal teacher if you knew that that teacher had raped multiple people? Joden, that's a direct question for you. If you knew that your kids were at a school and that teacher was just the best teacher they've ever had, you know, they're learning all kinds of new things about the planet, they're learning science, they're learning math, they're getting better at reading, but then you learn that that person has raped multiple women and not received any kind of legal consequence for it. Would you want that person still teaching your kids? Really? Like, because to me, like, I don't care how good someone is at that job. I don't want a rapist in that position. I want that person to actually face some kind of legal consequence, actually. I wouldn't feel safe with them in school, but a 70-year-old man in office, I don't care. No, I don't care. Wait, so you're willing to give you're not willing to give like a 70-year-old teacher a pass. But if that 70-year-old is in an exponentially more powerful position in the White House, you think that that's going to go well? That's going to be better? Like, I'm sorry, do you think rapists should just get promoted at work? Like, I'm genuinely baffled by this idea. Well, just promote them until they're so high and powerful that they're, you know, away from us, I guess, is one of the most insane responses to learning that someone is a rapist I've ever seen in my life. I don't think anything is going to happen. Dude. Here we go. Just gonna look this up here. Where is this? Yeah, so this sexual assault allegedly happened like 25 years ago, and he admitted to it like just a couple months ago. But there was another one. Let's see. Do. When was this? Yeah, when confronted about this, like him raping a woman, his response was, "I'm not a church boy." I don't know. Like, if you think a 70-year-old powerful man can't rape people, like, I got bad news for you about a lot of the people on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. I don't know. Insane position to take. I think the claims and punishments are all political moral signaling. Wait, Joden, it's not a claim. The person who made the allegation had contemporaneous evidence, and then RFK Jr. acknowledged that it happened and apologized. Hey, Joden, do you think that powerful men can buy sex? I feel like I'm explaining this to a child. It can be fact. I don't care. Well, at least be honest about that. At least be honest about the fact that, like, you don't care if the people you support are rapists. At least be honest about that. You know? Like, why the song and dance? Why, what is your deal? You know? Just be honest. Be like, yeah, I'd elect a town mayor that's a rapist. Hell yeah. If he's good at the job, fuck yeah. Like, why pretend to be anything else, you know? Like, why? I don't understand. Just be honest. Just be honest about who and what you are. I am honest. I don't give a crap. This is your thing. You act like your side is clean. My side's not clean, but I think the difference here is that when someone on my political end of the spectrum does a sexual assault, I think that's bad, and I think that that person shouldn't be in a position of power. Meanwhile, you're like, well, he might have done, he did rapes, sure. Even if it's a fact, I don't care if he did rapes. So, like, I don't know. I think that's a pretty big difference. And I think that, frankly, most people in America are completely and utterly alienated by your position. Most people in America hear what you're saying and go, oh, that person is a monster. Not just the person who did the raping, but the person who's supporting the rapists is a monster. Like, they look at you and they're like, oh, well, you're the reason why women cover their drinks at clubs, frankly. Jack, you're better than this. Don't let him get you. Don't try and police my content, Zero. Fuck you. I will, you know what? I'm gonna stick on this for even longer now. Because specifically, fuck you for trying to tell me what to do on my show. If you don't want to watch this conversation, you don't have to. God damn. Most people are tired of your virtue signaling. I think more people care about rapists than care about virtue signaling. I think most people have no idea what virtue signaling means outside of, like, internet, you know, fail sons, essentially. Rape is wrong. Yeah, but you don't care. Like, this is like saying murder is wrong, but you don't care if someone's a murderer. You think rape is wrong, but you don't care if someone's a rapist. The thing you care about is virtue signaling, dog. You put virtue signaling as a crime higher than murder or rape. That's a problem with your heart. God, dog. Who raped? RFK Jr. Also Donald Trump. But you know what? You guys apparently support that. So, whatever.